Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. How are you? All right, I want to break things down into something very simple for this lecture. May not be a long one, but it's, this is the way that I think. I try to get to the core of everything. And again, the bottom line is this. The bottom line is there's only three things that matter. Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you prosperous? And I suppose the fourth one is, do you have love? Ultimately, it all boils down to that. There's nothing that replaces love. And I'm going to be getting to the title of this video in a little bit, but before I do, let's go back and look at the fundamentals we've talked about very quickly before, which is we know for a fact that the one thing that can kill a human being the fastest when they are an infant is not to receive love. There's been numerous experiments throughout history. The one that I know that is the earliest dates all the way back to the Middle Ages, where infants were given the best care in terms of food, clothing, shelter, all of that. But they were denied any kind of human interaction. The one in the Middle Ages that I'm thinking about, the nuns that were looking after these, I don't know how many infants there were, but there was a lot of them. And they were told on pain of death, under no circumstances can you can never talk to the children. In fact, you cannot interact with them in any way except for to feed them, clothe them, wipe their bottoms. But other than that, you cannot, under pain of death, interact with them, especially you cannot communicate with them. And every single one of those infants died. And that has happened throughout history, every time that happens. Infants, if it could even be as simple as, an infant being left out and not interacted with for I don't know how long, a day, a week, something like that, a couple of days maybe even. And that lack of interaction with a human will break them. And there are many mental illnesses that are the same, that are the result of that and that alone. And this is actually the cause for narcissistic personality disorders and other cluster B personality disorders, which are the people who are most associated with cruelty and narcissism. Serial killers, world leaders that kill millions of people. When you look at them, you realize that we're dealing with people who have cluster B personality disorders, very severe. And the cause of it is that now that they're broken, they are incapable of not only giving love, but receiving love. And this is really the core of it. Everything that we do, no matter what it is, whatever spiritual practice we do, whatever psychological, philosophical, self-help, whatever it is that we are doing in order to meet that most basic need within ourselves comes from the need for love. So, the one most important truth that we need to learn in order to have those other three things that I said, this is really the only thing that matters. Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you prosperous? Those three things is what everybody seeks after. life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That's the basis of the American dream: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is knowing that there is absolutely nothing that you need to do except to know that your value comes from only one thing, and that is that you exist. And we live in a world, and especially now in a culture, where people struggle to find relevance. They struggle to find belonging. They struggle to find self-confidence, whether it's belonging in a group or feeling confident within yourself. And it all comes back to that awareness. If you were able to absorb the reality that the only thing that gives you relevance in this universe is the fact that you exist and that you experience. That's it. This is really what, when I break it down, when I'm working with clients, when I'm working with students, apprentices, whatever the specific thing is that we're attacking at the moment, trying to solve or understand, it comes down to that basic core of, do you realize that the only thing that matters to the universe is that you exist, and there is nothing you can do which will ever have more value than knowing that your worth, your value, your worthiness to be loved is based on only one thing, and that is that you exist, period. And the most destructive thing that can be taught to an infant is that their value is based on what they do and how they serve the needs of others. So what got me thinking about this, of course I think about this a lot, but what got me thinking about this today was flipping around YouTube, and I came across this experiment that was done in, I believe it was 1932. And it had to do with two infants. One was a chimpanzee and one was a human. And the chimpanzee was brought into the home of these two, I think they were psychologists or psychiatrists, and they wanted to experiment with what happens when you try to raise a chimpanzee as a human. And so the infant boy and the infant chimpanzee grew up together as brother and sister for a short period of time. Now what ended up happening, of course, they went and stole the infant chimpanzee from its mother and took it out of the mother's cage. And of course, we can only imagine what trauma that caused both the chimpanzee mother and the chimpanzee infant. And it starts from the beginning. It shows the mindset of the experimenters, is that there's no empathy there. There's a word that can be used in psychology, which is a good one, which is to instrumentalize, or to be instrumentalized by your parents. It means to be turned into a thing, to be turned into an instrument. To be turned into an instrument where your only value is what you do, like a tool. What you do to meet the parents' immediate desires, needs, which of course the most extreme would be seen when there's sexual abuse. That's the ultimate instrumentalization of a child or an infant. There's just I'm now objectifying this for my own personal pleasure. And that is an extreme example of what happens even if somebody isn't physically abused. If they are raised in a home where their only value is what they do to please the parents. So the parents will often parentify the child. The child will then will be put in a position to take the job of the parent and parent the parent. But no matter what it is, however the message gets to you, whether it's through outright abuse or whether it's neglect or whether it's just a feeling that is given off, the message, especially infants and toddlers, get the message from the unconscious of the parents. That's what is driving them, because they can't speak, they don't understand words, they only know what they can pick up, if you want to call it psychically. They can pick up the energy. In fact, it's been shown that infants at 6 days old will begin to try to elicit emotional responses from the parent. So by 6 days old, they're already doing things to get the parent to respond to them. If you hear about this a lot, there will be, there's all different kinds of abusive homes, and one of them is the stoic one. The typical, Anglo-Saxon stoic home where nobody has any emotions, nobody has any feelings, nothing's wrong. You walk in the house, everything is set up perfectly, everything's quiet, everybody's in their place doing their thing, but there's no emotional involvement. And in those homes, you will find infants crying a lot because they're picking up on the unconscious sadness within the people as they're walking around pretending everything is okay, stuffing all of their feelings down. It ends up going into the infant until the infant learns that they are an instrument, and their job is to make sure, in that instance, their job would be to make sure never to let the parents or the other siblings have any feelings. So don't have any feelings. Don't exhibit them. Don't have them. This is what happens in cults. In any case, I won't get into the details of the experiment because you can imagine what happened. I mean, what ended up happening is that the infant boy wasn't able to communicate properly and ended up communicating like a chimpanzee. And the chimpanzee struggled desperately to try and be a human, and it couldn't do so. It wasn't able to. But it understood, or she understood, that her job was to act like a human, and she tried to. She tried to walk like a human, she tried to do things like humans, and she wasn't capable of doing it. And so, however long that experiment was, it happened in that most formidable stage. And one of my favorite phrases that I've heard, I don't know where I heard it from, but it's brilliant. It says, if you have a kid, you got 3 years to get it right. After that, the damage has been done. If you've instrumentalized the child, if you have if you have not shown them unconditional love and given the infant the overwhelming message that the only value that they need to have is to be alive and to experience, to have emotions and feelings and physical reactions to things. And as you've heard me say many times before, that's what a healthy parent does. A healthy parent, no matter what the child is doing, the child is rewarded for whatever they're doing. They're crying, they're picked up and they're taken care of. They're laughing, people laugh with them. If they do something, if they make a noise, you respond by mimicking the noise. You talk to them, you teach them, you're always there with them, you pick them up, you touch them, you interact with them. Everything that the parent does is to reward the infant for simply having a feeling or a need. And the end result is the infant gets the overwhelming message that I have value because I exist. And then they can form an identity, and then they can grow up. And then what ends up happening is that things shift. And of course, they have to learn discipline, and they have to learn boundaries. And that is when they experience being disappointed. They don't get whatever they want whenever they want. But because they have that internal experience of my only value is that I exist, then they learn to comfort themselves. They'll have a temper tantrum, and the parents will go, all right, we're going to put you in a timeout. When you're ready, you can come back in. And the toddler will have the temper tantrum and then calm down. And then they will then comfort themselves internally. They will say, sucking thumb or whatever. They will tell themselves in whatever way, that's okay. You have value just because you exist. It's okay you didn't get what you wanted. You still have value. You're still lovable. Then they can come out and interact, and they learn how to have empathy and all of that other stuff. So what ended up happening, which I found very interesting, with the experiment was that after however long it was, basically what ended up happening is that the human parents got bored of the experiment. They learned whatever they were going to learn from it. It was obvious that they weren't going to turn the chimpanzee into a human, and it was having a negative effect on their child. Their child was becoming more chimpanzee than human, and so they decided to end the experiment. And the way they did that is after, of course, bonding with, after stealing the infant chimpanzee from its mother and then putting it in and trying to make it into a human and then getting rid of it and putting it back into some zoo somewhere. I don't know what they did, but they got rid of it. And almost immediately, within months, the infant chimpanzee died of pneumonia. Now, if you know anything about Chinese medicine, you know that pneumonia is from deep, deep sadness. Anything with the lungs is sadness. If you're somebody, you have a cough, you've got a cough that won't go away, it's from some deep, unresolved sadness. And what I found interesting about the male human, turned into a man, he grew up and he became he studied medicine and psychology. I don't know what else he did. I just know what I was told. And then suddenly he took his own life. Now that's the way they say it. He took his own life. But then you find out later that he took his life literally the next year after both of his parents died. So what does that tell you? It tells you that he never individuated. And what did he do? He went and did what his parents did. He became a psychologist and studied medicine. And as soon as his parents died, he blew his brains out. Literally, with a gun, blew his brains out. Because if I look at all that, what it tells me is that he was still being instrumentalized. He had internalized his worth in life, which was to be an experiment for his parents and to show his parents, look, I'm a good human now. I'm whatever. He went and did what his parents did, acted like his parents. His parents died, blew his brains out. The infant chimpanzee obviously had to have gotten the message, because what was interesting is the chimpanzee started to learn English, wasn't able to speak it, but could understand it. You could talk to the chimpanzee and it could understand what you were saying. And so after working very hard to please the parents to get love, which was to try and become a human, obviously she was rejected and she failed. She must have known in her little chimpanzee brain that, oh, I failed, I don't have any worth. I did not meet my parents' expectations, and she died of sadness. I'm guessing. what her thoughts might have been. One of the most important near-death experiences that I remember reading about was a woman who was, you've heard me say it before, I'll say it again. She was riddled with cancer. And so much so that she was dying. She was on her deathbed. She was dying. Her body was filled with tumors. And she slipped away. And as she slipped away and left her body, she went to some place, some beautiful naturey place. And the first experience she had after leaving her body was that she became aware that the universe was telling her, not verbally, but energetically, the feeling was that, oh my gosh, my value is simply in the fact that I exist. And I spent my whole life trying to earn my value and my love by what I did for others. And that's what gave her cancer. She became aware. And of course, she was sent back. And she knew that when she came back into her body, that her body would instantly begin to heal because that was the cause of her cancer. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And the doctors were like, I don't know how this is amazing. We've never seen anything, blah, blah, blah. And so, all of the spiritualization that we do, to become enlightened, to become self-aware, the way that we deify spiritual teachers, like one of the words for a spiritual master in the Hindu religion is Swami, which means self-aware. Swami is somebody who's just aware of themselves. And that is wonderful, what we deify that. And it just means that that's somebody who's gone, oh, I don't have to do anything to be of value. I just have to exist and love myself for existing, which of course means that you will be loving everything else. And it's so simple. It's the most simple thing that anybody could do or be or say. And yet we make it so difficult. All of the stuff, whether it's coming from me, whether it's coming from Ophiuchus or Mahadeva, the Ascended Master, I just want you from now on to listen, whether I'm coming at you with, the bitter medicine or whatever it is. I want you to listen for the message, because the message is always going to be the same. The underlying message is, don't you realize that you are God? Don't you realize that you are the source of everything? Don't you realize that there is nothing for you to accomplish? There is no enlightenment for you to accomplish. The only thing that's going to happen after spending however many thousands of lifetimes or however whatever is you're going to come to the realization that, oh, I'm already there. I'm everything. I don't remember the gentleman's name. He was a Himalayan yogi who died in the 70s, and he was one of those guys that just had a loincloth and a walking stick, and he lived in the mountains. And, had a begging bowl, and he didn't do anything. He just meditated. And there are recordings of him. People are asking him, what's the ultimate this and that? And he says, I did mantra for a long time, and I did yoga for a long time, until I realized that, the only thing that matters is just enjoying being here right now. And once I figured that out, I stopped. I don't need to do any of that other stuff anymore. And that's all I do. I mean, at any given point in time, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm enjoying being myself in the moment, and there's nothing to accomplish. I'm just in the bliss of being myself. And I saw pictures of him, and he was in his 70s, and he looked like he was 35. He just didn't look old at all. So that's really all that I came on to say tonight. We'll get back into the specifics of what to do and how to do this and what to do that. But the bottom line is, the question is that you want to ask yourself is, am I trying to get love through what I'm doing? Am I trying to accomplish something? Am I trying to get people to love me? Success with money. Those of you like me who have had challenges with finances. Finances are nothing more than the symbol of being loved. That's it. You don't realize it, but when you see somebody that has money, your insides go, oh, the universe loves him. Mommy loves him. If you are struggling with money, it means that you're telling yourself, I don't deserve love. I don't deserve it. And then you express that, you manifest that with your poverty. Or just even your experience of poverty. Because what is poverty? For one person, I learned a long time ago that if I wanted to, I could live very comfortably with almost no money. You could have tons of money and still be, dying of some horrible disease and not having enough money to pay all of the doctors that are not accomplishing your health. I mean, the amount of money is relative, but the feeling that you get that you are being nurtured, that you are being loved, money is one of those symbols. Success is another. Fame is another. Love is another. And one of the easiest ones, people, get married and have kids. And, a lot of people do that trying to get love. And of course, all they do is they spread their instrumentalized view of themselves onto their children, which is very sad. And then there are those parents that share their love with their kids, and that's really wonderful. We don't hear about them. They're off enjoying their lives. We only hear about the people who cause all the trouble. So that's it. That's really all I want to say today is how can we, all of us, at any given point in time, ask ourselves the question, am I aware that the only value that is necessary for me is just to exist? To be aware of my existence. This is why I tell you to focus on your feelings and to get out of your head, to stop intellectualizing it. What are your feelings? I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy. That is a very practical way to love yourself simply for existing. Now perhaps you've been damaged by your upbringing, and so you're struggling with that. But all of those negative feelings, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm confused, whatever it is, those feelings are valid, and they prove that you have worth. And the end result, as I said, the true nature of self-awareness, what it is exactly as I said, the title. The true nature of self-awareness and the inevitable result of that truth in your life. The inevitable result of the awareness of that truth, I didn't have enough room to do that. The inevitable result of the awareness of that truth, that the only thing that gives you value is the fact you exist. The ultimate result of that is that you will live your soul desire. A lot of you trying to find out what your soul desire is. You're racking your brain trying to figure it out. You get confused. You think you know what it is one day, and then the next day you talk yourself out of it, or you get confused, or whatever. And we talk about unconscious resistance and all that other stuff. But the ultimate end result, the inescapable result of you having the awareness that my value comes from the fact that I am an infinite soul that exists and experiences this universe. The ultimate result of that is you will fulfill your soul's desire, you will fulfill your purpose, and you will benefit all conscious life in the universe. The only thing that has to happen is that you come to the awareness that you have value because you exist. One of my earliest memories, I believe I was 4 years old. And I remember where I was looking. I just happened to be staring at something. I was thinking very deeply, but I was just standing there staring. I remember it. So I remember the view that I was looking at. But what I was thinking of was this awareness, this undeniable awareness that I was going to live forever, that I couldn't die. Not that I couldn't physically die. I wasn't thinking that. I just knew that the essence of me was never going to die, and that I had always existed and I always will. And I remember thinking that. And I remember really having, at 4 years of age. So I thought everybody had that knowledge and that awareness. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I remember telling my wife about it, my now ex-wife, and she looked at me and she said, "That's not normal. Most 4-year-old kids don't think like that." I don't know how true that is. I think maybe a lot of 4-year-old kids do think like that. But that was the most, that was the most enlightened experience and thought that I've had. I haven't had any experience that's been more enlightened than that. And all that's happened throughout all of the years and all of the spirituality and everything I've done has been to come back to that awareness. That the only thing that matters is that I exist and that I honor my own existence. And when I honor my own existence, I help every other conscious entity in the universe honor and experience theirs. And all of the stuff that I do, all of the things that I teach, all of the energy practices, all of the mantras, all of those things, I teach them because they do that for me. When I do the lightning qigong, when I do the maoshan, when I do the mantra work, I have this experience. I experience this love that comes to me from the universe. And I feel a contentment just within myself because I can feel the energy of the universe flowing through me, which reminds me that I exist and that's all that matters. So, repeating myself, so I'll leave it at that. If you want to, ask a question, you can. Maybe we don't need to go very deep today, but I thought I would share that with you. If you have a question, please write the word question. I'll be happy to take a look at it. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He says hello, and you can take a look at what he offers right there. He offers a lot of stuff. He is one of my certified astrologers, among other things, but he's got a bunch of other stuff going on there, and you can go check him out at vincent.thunderwizard.com. Thundra Staves Rangel is also a very powerful shamaness in her own right. You can go to her website, thundra.thunderwizard.com, and get an astrology reading or whatever else she offers up. So George Edward Scott, welcome to the channel. The way that I like to interact with people is you can see people, if you scroll up, you'll see people asking question, or at some point you'll see people asking question in all caps. I do that so that I don't miss it, because otherwise it's just a bunch of people typing stuff and I have to scroll through all of the comments and the trolls just to get to the questions. So this looks like you have a question. You say 100%, how do you change the damage done by childhood trauma? I don't know that you need to change the damage, because that sounds like you want to make it go away, which sounds like you're trying to get away from the painful feelings, which is understandable. But the desire to escape the feeling is actually suicidal. You wouldn't say that to somebody if they were coming to you and they were sad, somebody had hurt them. You wouldn't tell them, knock it off, don't think about that, don't feel that. You would say, come here, tell me what happened. And they would tell you, and you would say, oh, that's horrible. I'm so sad you feel like that. I love you. I accept you. You wouldn't talk them out of their feelings. So it's important not to talk yourself out of your own feelings. The challenging part is it is going to be painful. So sometimes there's nothing that can be done except to feel the pain. You can't do it alone. This is something I was trying to tell somebody earlier, who they know who they are. And, the way that they were behaving in their communications with me really showed me that they were in deep pain. And it seemed obvious to me, I don't know if it was, but it seemed obvious to me that they weren't doing anything. They were isolating and just ruminating within themselves and, damaging themselves, which is what we do. And that was the last communication I had with that person, which was, I think it's a good idea to get some help. You're not going to be able to pull this off by yourself. So George Edward Scott, if you haven't done that already, that's what therapists are for. That's what teachers are for, counselors. That's what self-help groups, 12-step groups. It's good to have other people. The most valuable, I have to tell everybody, the single most valuable transformative tool that I used to let go of the pain and transform it was the 4th step of the 12 steps. I'll leave that to you to go look through that. The 4th step was the single most healing, transformative tool that I have used continually throughout my life. So if I were to answer that question, how do you change the damage done by childhood trauma? 4th step. Let's see. Flux Pavilion question. What is the purpose of the reverse microcosmic orbit in your tear energy ritual? Why does it have to have a purpose? So you're asking the question, in case anybody doesn't understand the question. The tear energy ritual he's talking about is called the Heaven Earth Qigong meditation, or the Tyr Hole, Tyr Hole meditation. But you can look for it. You can look for it on my channel in the playlists. In the Qigong, you will find the Heaven Earth meditation. I recommend everybody do it. It's one of those things that if you do that for the rest of your life, you won't need anything, any other spiritual practice. It's a one-size-fits-all that does everything. It's like taking vitamin C every day. It's one of the best things you can do. And if you have to pick one, that would be one to do. You don't have to do anything else. So he's comparing this to Taoist practice, and they have what's called the microcosmic orbit. There's multiple microcosmic orbits, but the one that is most well known is the one where you meditate and you bring the energy up the spine and then down the front of the trunk of the body, and then go down to the root chakra and back up the spine. And it's called the fire path. So the reverse microcosmic orbit, I've been doing it for so long, I don't even think of it anymore. That's called the water path. And so the purpose of that is to get you more connected, among other things. I'm just telling you my experience. It gets me more connected with yin, with the feminine, with the earth, with water. The fire path, so once again, if you can go watch my videos about the left-hand path versus the right-hand path. So the regular microcosmic orbit, up the back, down the front, is a right-hand path practice, which is why it is the most well-known, because right-hand path is the most well-known, because right-hand path is the safest path. It is the easiest path, because you have to employ discipline over time. You have to deny yourself your desires and your impulses. And eventually what that does is that allows, if I'm being honest here, less evolved people, it allows them a path that brings them enlightenment, awareness, health, etc., in a very safe way. The left-hand path is very fast. So you gain power very quickly. But the downside is that all of your unresolved negative emotions come to your awareness very quickly, which most people can't handle. And so it can be dangerous. The power can be dangerous because people then get wrapped up in their greed and in their just like Star Wars, they get wrapped up in the dark side, which is really, they think they're tapping into power when they're not. Um, but this is a left-hand path practice, which, as we talked about, is, right-hand path is chi, the navel. Left-hand path is heart, the lightning. So this is conducive to the lightning path and to the left-hand path. If you want to know more about that, you can go to thunderwizard.com and you can subscribe at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. All you have to do is go on there and scroll down to the first, practice video, and you click play and you do the exercises with me, and you will experience a unified energy practice that, to my knowledge, is not taught by anybody else, nor has it ever been taught by anybody else in the world, as far as I know. And that is the unification of chi energy, life force energy, qigong, kundalini, because we do a little bit of kundalini yoga in there, as well as the mantra, which kicks in the kundalini, and then the almost completely unknown power of the shin, which is the heart mind, which is the lightning that surrounds the soul, that is normally self-contained, but when you release it, it is the most powerful energy in our three-dimensional universe, and that is why the Maoshan masters could fight demons with their bare hands, because they had an energy that you can't find anywhere else. You want to find out more about that? Subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge and follow the practices. All right, what else? So that's my answer to the what's the purpose of the reverse microcosmic orbit. Samuel Frederick, welcome to the channel. If you can please, again, if you look above where your comment is, you'll see Flux Pavilion. You see there, write the word question in all caps. Please do that, because otherwise I'll miss it. There's a bunch of people on. I'm going to scroll through everything that's not a question. So I want to see it. So that's how you get my attention. You say, when you meditate, what do you see? Are you asking me personally? You want to know my experience of what I see? Or are you asking, what should you see? My first question to you is, how does it benefit you to know what I see? When I go to the gym, do you want to know the routine that I do, or do you want to do the routine that the other guy does? Or do you want to figure out your own routine? I don't know that it matters. And to be honest, I don't want to answer the question. I don't even want to answer the question if I see anything at all. Because there's so many ways to meditate. There's literally thousands of different ways to meditate. So if you've got a meditation practice, that's great. If you want a meditation practice, scroll through the playlist on the channel, subscribe to the Lightning Qigong. I've got numerous. You can go to any one of the links. I mean, there's just no shortage of meditations, and they will all do different things, and you will see all different things or not see anything. So there isn't one way to experience it or one thing to see. Flame 160, honest feelings. So I like questions and honest feelings because, as I said, feelings are the fastest way to, without any judgment, love yourself in the moment and be in the moment and feel your worth, your sadness, your pain, your fear, as well as your happiness, your joy, your bliss. Experiencing all of them without judgment, you are fully enlightened in that moment. And in that moment, you are giving yourself the message that you have value simply because you are experiencing that emotion. Honest feeling, Flame 160 says, I felt almost the same thing as a 4-year-old. I felt that I would live forever and was traumatized when my mom told me that we all die. I've had intense fear of death since. Interesting. I'm enjoying the awareness of a process that happens within me. A process that throughout most of my life has happened unconsciously. But now because, I've practiced for so long and I am, even some people don't like to hear me say it, but I'm almost, I'm pushing 60. I'm 58. And because I've lived this long and done whatever I've done, throughout my life, and because I'm completely, living a monk lifestyle right now. I live completely alone by myself, even though I live in, society. And so I have a lot of time being with myself and being with my own thoughts and my own feelings, which I'm enjoying. For the first time in my life, I'm aware on a really deep level that there isn't anybody in my life that I have any responsibility for. I'm not responsible for anybody's feelings. I don't need to do anything to make anybody happy, which is what you do. When you're in a relationship, you're responsible to, be there for the other person. If you've got parents, if you've got kids, you're responsible for them. I've got none of those things. All my family is dead. And I don't have a relationship at the moment. I don't even have any ongoing friendships at the moment, which means I'm not responsible for anybody. I can just do whatever the heck I want, whenever I want. The only responsibility I have is to myself. And what I've now seen under that experience is that, like, for instance, sometimes I will get this feeling of, really self-critical feeling of I'm such a loser. And I'll stop and I'll go, where is that feeling coming from? And it almost always comes from a passing thought that goes through my head that says, you don't have any love in your life. You're a loser. And it happens so fast and the feeling overcomes me that then I find myself doing things, just acting impulsively and doing, habitual things, trying to actually wrestle with that or, walk around. In fact, it'll overtake me and I'll walk around feeling like I'm such a loser till I stop and I go, why am I feeling that? And the only reason I'm feeling that is because I'm imagining what other people might think about me. And then I go, wait a minute, am I really unhappy about being alone? No. In fact, I have nothing but opportunities. I mean, I've got dating profiles set up and I've had nothing but opportunities to go on dates and meet women, and I realize that I don't want to. I'm enjoying exactly where I'm at. So that's just one example. But, my life, I'm sure, is not a whole lot different than anybody else's, where you spend decades completely being run by these thoughts in your head that come up, about your worth and your value. So in that case, you don't have a woman in your life, then my value is in that moment based on whether or not there's a woman in my life. If there's a woman in my life, then I have value. And then you realize, well, no, that's not right. Because, the truth is that I've only had a few really good relationships. The rest of them are just really challenging. And, I spent years just walking around trying to make sure that I pleased these women in my life, who were instrumentalizing me. I was instrumentalizing them. And I'm not doing that. I'm not instrumentalizing anybody. Nobody's instrumentalizing me. I can decide. I can change who I am. I can decide who I want to be in this world. So that's just one example. And you remind me of that because you were in that state as a 4-year-old where you knew that basically that your worth came simply because you existed and you have always existed and you always will. And then your mom came to you and said, no, you're going to die. And then it became about what your mom thinks of you, which is like God, and you've been fearful ever since. And I would suggest that fear is really about your mom's acceptance and opinion of you. And if you can see that and get past that, I think there's a way to get back to that feeling as a 4-year-old and go, oh, I've always existed and I always will. I can't die. My essence can never go away. Anyway, you can find out for yourself. That's my thought. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Question: how do I cultivate self-acceptance? Are we talking about a feeling? You know my answer. My answer is always going to be the same. the feeling that you don't accept yourself, the feeling that you're criticizing yourself, it's just that. It's a tape. It's an old behavior. And you are, for the first time in your life, becoming acutely aware that that tape is running 24/7. If you think back, that tape was running. You just learned how to sort of put it in the background. And it was just sort of background noise. But it drove you. And we do that because otherwise we won't survive. So now you're becoming aware of the background noise going on all the time. That's telling you, that's criticizing you. And because you're taking contrary action, you're taking action towards your soul desire, which you're now aware of, which you were shamed out of. Both you shamed yourself out of it, as well as your primary caregivers shamed you out of it. Now you put the brakes on and you're going in the opposite direction. And of course, you're going to feel all of that negative stuff. So you're asking me the same question, in different ways, which is, how do I stop this feeling? And you're not supposed to stop the feeling. You're just supposed to take action, healthy, constructive action, and the feeling will resolve itself when and however it will. It might take a long time. I'm sorry. Again, I'm 58. I've been doing this work for over 40 years. I've been working this intensely I've been doing it for longer than that, but I did it in, through religion and other things that wasn't as effective. So if it's taken me 40 years to get where I'm at, it might take you a couple of years. That's okay. The only thing that matters is, are you making progress? As on the whole, is your life better than it was 6 months or a year ago? I already know the answer is yes. Are you happier? Yes. Are you more prosperous? Yes. Are you healthier? Yes. Those are the only thing that matter. And those are the, if somebody wants to talk about their visions and whatever they're doing in their spiritual practice and all of that and all the realizations they have, I always bring them back to, and has that, whatever it is, given you better health, more prosperity, and more happiness? And if the answer is yes, then great, keep doing it. If the answer is no, then you're probably lost in your own selfish narcissism or unconscious resistance. So I don't have an answer for you. Just keep doing what you're doing. You say, I realize judging myself is damaging. Now you're judging yourself for judging yourself. Judging yourself isn't damaging. The actions that you take based on that self-judgment, the self-sabotage actions that you take based on that self-judgment is what's damaging to you. The feeling itself is not damaging. It's just a feeling. Your actions are what matter, not how you feel about them. Remember, again, my ancestors said those who die in battle go to Valhalla, not those who feel confident before they go into battle, not those who psych them up and feel that they can do anything. And it doesn't say those who are afraid go to the underworld. No, it says those who, die in battle. They take action. It doesn't matter how you feel. Those who take action achieve enlightenment, regardless of how they feel. It's a question. It's something I will continue to repeat. I'm happy to repeat it for as long as you need to hear it, because I needed to hear it over and over again. And if you'll find, what you'll see now, if you look, you'll see you've always been asking me the same question, which is, how can I stop this feeling? And you'll see going forward that you'll come up with new questions, and the basis of that question will be, how can I stop this feeling? And I'm not here to tell you how to stop the feeling. The feelings will eventually resolve themselves as long as your actions are in alignment with your soul. Then the feelings will eventually calm down, and there will be good days and there will be bad days. Welcome to the human race. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I'm sad that I had a difficult traumatic childhood, emotional neglect, and medical neglect. Advice? I just gave it to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, what else? Samuel Frederick, you're not paying attention. So the two most important things in this life are, number one, pay attention. Number two, put effort. So what did I say? I said, please write the word question in all caps. I know it sounds like I'm just being controlling, but this is really extremely important. Being in the moment and paying attention in the moment to everything, what you're feeling, what's going on, all of that stuff. And paying attention to what other people say, having respect for what other people say. You're in my home. I've invited you in my home. I'm sharing a lecture with you, a very personal lecture with you from my home. And if I say, please take your shoes off, I'd like for you to pay attention and take your shoes off before you come into my home. If I ask you to do that, please do that. I'm doing that. This is a very powerful spiritual teaching, paying attention. So the other thing that you don't know is I want you to ask questions based on what I teach. I'm not interested in the kind of stuff that you ask somebody in the bar. What is your sign, and what kind of car do you drive? I'm not interested in those questions, nothing personal. If you have a question based on what I'm talking about, if you have a question based on any of my other videos, I'm happy to answer those. I'll be really happy to answer those. There's a lot of questions I'm not going to want to answer. Don't take it personally. What else? Nothing else? I don't see any other questions here. That's okay. I just wanted this to be a short one. Bottom line, again, what I want is to just have you meditate on that. That the only thing that matters is that you exist. And that's the only thing that can give you value. And anything else you do that will be of benefit to the rest of the universe will be based on your continued increased awareness of your already pre-existing worth and value, and that you are loved. You are loved. The universe is continuously pouring love onto you and into you and around you. And the practices that I share are just other ways to tap into it. So yeah, if you're new to the channel, I strongly recommend that you go on and look through the playlists. Find stuff you want to watch and listen to. And I also strongly recommend that you learn how to search within the channel. If you have a question about something, get the keyword for it, chakras, reincarnation, whatever it is, and learn how to search within my channel for those keywords. There's a way to do it, but if you pay attention and put effort, you'll find out how to do it. And the most valuable gift I can offer you is the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. Go subscribe. Now's a good time because we're at the beginning of the month. And do the practices. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. But my challenge to everybody is, if you do the practices, I guarantee you your life will change. I guarantee you will have an experience. In fact, I dare you to do the practices on a daily basis for 1 month and then come back and tell me that nothing happened. I dare you. I challenge you. All right, that's it. That's all I got. It's really great to see you guys all again. Yeah, that's it. I will see you guys all very soon. Take good care of yourselves.